discuss this. The other big confirmation hearing that was taking place yesterday as well was RFK Jr. One comment that he has made seems to have, at least one comment is making a lot of controversy. So let's just have a listen to what he said about Operation Warp Speed.
I do have a question for you on Project Warp Speed.
What I want to do is, I'm not a scientist. I want to empower scientists. I want to make sure that science is unobstructed by vested or economic interests.
That's good.
Or by bad culture. And I'll just say about Operation Warp Speed, it was an extraordinary accomplishment, showed demonstration of leadership by President Trump. When he promoted Operation Warp Speed, he was looking at all of the different remedies, including vaccines.
Therapeutics, everything.
Therapeutic, ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, famotidine, even chlorine dioxide. And he was not looking at shutting down our country for the year, forcing people to wear masks for a year, forcing all social distancing that did not have any scientific basis, which Dr. Fauci has now acknowledged. He said, we took it out of thin air. But all of those changed during the Biden administration. And it became very narrowly focused. We ended up with the worst, the highest death count of any country in the world.
Is that true?
What, death count? Where do we start? COVID deaths? Is RFK really pushing that old chestnut? What COVID deaths?
Is it true that in practice, Warp Speed was about anything other than vaccines?
No, it was all about vaccines. It was all about vaccines. They commandeered the military to drive this massive deployment of experimental, highly dangerous and non-tested, non-safe, toxic shots. Period. End of story. I mean, how many times do we have to go through this? And RFK Jr., for political reasons, not to implicate his new boss, Donald Trump, he's backing off and saying what a great thing Operation Warp Speed is. His whole organization, Children's Health Defense, has spent the last 5 years practically just railing against Operation Warp Speed and the experimental COVID vaccines. And in one fell swoop, RFK has thrown Children's Health Defense under the bus and everybody working in that organization and mothers with children with autism. And the list goes on and on and on. And I mean, it's just unbelievable. How can you defend one of the worst crimes against humanity that maimed and killed countless people globally? How can you sit there and praise Operation Warp Speed? It's really unbelievable.
It didn't end there because we have a little bit more.
Jerry, would you recommend that parents get their children vaccinated against HPV?
I recommend that children follow the CDC schedule. And I will support the CDC schedule when I get in there, if I'm fortunate enough to be confirmed.
Would you recommend that parents get their children vaccinated against the measles? Yes or no?
Against measles? Yes.
Well, I just remind everybody that.
Okay. So Robert F. Kennedy, who's been campaigning against the childhood schedule for the longest time, says he now supports the childhood vaccine schedule. I mean, this guy is unbelievable. So he's capitulated to the establishment, to Big Pharma, in the most profound way. I mean, I can't believe I heard that from him especially. He could have said, oh, well, the childhood vaccine schedule needs to really be looked at. It is excessive. How many vaccines did Robert F. Kennedy have as a child? 3? Or something like that? I mean, he could talk to the boomers, Mike, right, and say, we're healthy. We only had 3. Why do these children need 60 or 70 vaccines before the age of 5? I mean, you could easily make that appeal, but he is afraid of not getting confirmed and being labeled an anti-vaxxer. So he has taken the middle of the road, halfway house position and basically thrown again mothers against children with autism under the bus and all these groups like that. So let's take a look, Mike, at the childhood vaccine schedule. It's important that people understand in the United States, especially, how aggressively this policy is pushed. state to state and even at the federal level. I mean, there's so many of these lists. It's endless here. And so what I've done here is also compiled, Mike, from the Cleveland Clinic, which is a known pediatric authority in America. We just to give you a little taste of basically what's available on this particular childhood vaccine schedule, and it goes on and on and on. Newborn to 6 months, 2 months, 4 months, 6 months, 18 months, right up to the age of 16. Let's just take a look at it. I mean, it's just endless. This is the childhood vaccine schedule. This doesn't count the flu and the COVID shots, which are every year, the RSV shots that are every year up to the age of 5, practically. 11 to 12-year-olds, tetanus, repeat that again for the rest of your life, and so forth and so on. Okay, so in RFK, and all these previous statements about vaccine safety, all the virtue signaling has been tossed aside for the process of this public demonstration down on one knee to the pharmaceutical industry, basically. I mean, I don't really know what else to say on this, but I mean, it is quite shocking. Of all the issues he had to capitulate on, the childhood vaccine schedule, it is really beyond belief.
Okay, thank you. Now let me welcome Mark to the program then.